The wind screamed like a living thing across the frozen plains of Tears 4, tearing through the broken bones of war machines long forgotten. The storm turned everything into a blur of white and shadow, where even sound died before it could reach the ear. Somewhere in that endless frost, the faint pulse of a distress beacon blinked, dying, flickering, desperate. Sergeant Kael Draven trudged through the blizzard, visor fogged, armor rimmed with ice. His HUD blinked red warnings about oxygen reserves, but he ignored them. The storm wasn't what bothered him. It was the silence beneath it. No gunfire, no voices, just the haunting static of an empty world. Tears 4 had been dead for years, since the Human-Empyrean War burned through it like a fever. And yet here he was, responding to a ghost signal no one else cared to answer. The coordinates led him to the edge of a frozen ravine. Through the blinding snow, he saw it, half buried in ice. A crashed alien pod, scorched black, its hull pulsing weakly with residual energy. He raised his weapon, scanning for movement. Nothing. The pod's surface bore the insignia of the Empyrean Collective, the same species humanity had fought to extinction, or so Command claimed. Kael hesitated only for a moment before stepping forward, boots crunching into the snow. He brushed off the eyes from the pod's entry hatch and activated his cutting torch. Blue fire hissed in the wind, melting through the frozen metal. When the hatch finally gave way, a gust of warmth escaped, followed by the faintest sound, a cry. Inside, the dim light of failing life support flickered over the form of an alien female, her skin pale silver with faint luminescent veins running across her arms. Her eyes were closed, her breath shallow. In her arms lay two infants, tiny, trembling, barely alive. Kael froze. The air felt heavier suddenly. He knew this was wrong. Everything about this was forbidden. He tapped his comms. "Command, this is Sergeant Draven, responding to distress signal Echo 79. I found survivors. Empyrean female, 2 newborns. They're alive." Static hissed for a moment, then a cold voice replied. "Negative, Sergeant. All alien casualties are to be ignored. You are to return to base immediately. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." Kael looked down at the woman again. Her body was shaking, lips moving silently, as if whispering something he couldn't hear. One of the infants stirred weakly in her arms, a faint cry piercing the storm outside. "Command," Kael said, voice low but firm. "These are children. Orders are clear." Draven, the voice snapped back. "We don't bring alien life aboard. They are not our concern. Secure your transport and return to orbit." "That's a direct order." Kael stared at the comm interface for a long moment. Then he switched it off. He knelt beside the alien mother and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Weak pulse. Her skin felt warm, too warm. She was burning up, her body failing. The infants, one of them had stopped crying. Kael's jaw tightened. He'd seen too much death already. He wasn't going to let 3 more lives fade out in this hellhole, because someone behind a desk said they didn't matter. He whispered softly, not sure why. "Hang on. I've got you." With one motion, he lifted the mother into his arms, wrapping his survival cloak around her and the infants. The heat sensors in his armor flared red, his temperature dropping fast, but he didn't care. He trudged back through the snow, the storm battering him from every side, each step a fight against the wind. His dropship waited on the ridge, half buried in frost. He forced the ramp open and staggered inside, sealing the hatch behind him. The ship's systems came alive with a low hum, filling the silence with a mechanical heartbeat. He laid the alien mother on the medbay table and quickly scanned her vitals. Oxygen low, blood toxins high. His medkit wasn't designed for her physiology, but he improvised. Come on," he muttered, injecting her with a neutral stabilizer. The babies whimpered softly beside her. Their tiny hands clung to each other, faint blue light flickering beneath their translucent skin. Kael paused, staring at them. Their glow pulsed faintly, synchronized, rhythmic. Almost human. He didn't have time to think about it. The radar flashed. Multiple contacts, closing fast. Drones. Human drones. Command had already sent retrieval units. Kael cursed under his breath. They tracked me. He rushed to the cockpit, fingers flying across the controls. Engines roared to life, shaking snow from the hull. As he pulled the ship skyward, the first barrage of tracer fire streaked past his viewport, searing the air. The drones locked on, engines whining. He cut thrusters and dove low, skimming across the frozen ridges. The dropship groaned under the pressure, alarms screaming in his ears. He angled sharply, sending the ship sliding through a canyon of shattered ice. The drones followed, relentless. Kael's hands moved by instinct, eyes burning with determination. He wasn't fighting for orders now. He was fighting for something older, something human. "Hold together, girl," he murmured to the ship. Just a little further. A missile streaked past, detonating against a nearby ridge. The shock wave slammed into the hull, throwing him sideways. Warning lights flared red. One of the stabilizers was gone. He gritted his teeth, throttled hard, and fired countermeasures. The drones veered off just long enough for him to reach orbit altitude. The ship burst through the upper clouds, leaving the storm behind. Stars filled the canopy, cold, endless, watching. Kael let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He turned in his seat and looked toward the med bay. The alien woman lay motionless, her skin faintly glowing beneath the ship's dim lights. The infants had stopped crying, now sleeping quietly, their small chests rising and falling in rhythm. Kael stepped closer. "You're safe now," he whispered, though part of him knew safety no longer existed. Not for them, not for him. Then, for just a second, her eyes opened. Not fully, just enough for him to see them glow faintly silver blue. She didn't speak, but her lips formed a single word he couldn't understand, yet somehow felt deep in his chest. And before he could say anything, her hand moved weakly toward the infants, touching one of them, and suddenly the ship's console flickered. The navigation screen flashed with coordinates, unknown, uncharted, written in alien glyphs. Kael stared at it in disbelief. "Where did you just send us?" Outside the viewport, the void of space shimmered faintly, as though something unseen had answered. And far below, on the surface of Tears 4, the drones that had tracked him fell silent. One by one, their systems powered down. A new signal pulsed through the static, soft, ancient, almost like a heartbeat. Kael didn't notice. He was already gone, vanishing into the stars, carrying with him a dying alien mother, her newborns, and a secret that would change everything humanity thought it knew. The hum of the ship filled the silence, a low, pulsing vibration that matched the faint rhythm of the twin infants' breathing. Beyond the viewport, the stars stretched into long streaks of light as Kael's vessel tore through hyperspace. For the first time in hours, there was no gunfire, no storm, just that hum. Kael sat in the pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the NAV screen. The coordinates the alien mother had entered before passing out glowed in shifting blue symbols. Untranslated, unknown. His ship's AI couldn't read them. Every attempt returned the same message. Data corrupted. Unknown origin. He ran a hand through his sweat-damp hair and glanced back toward the med bay. Vera Lynn lay motionless beneath the weak glow of the medical lamp. Her skin, silver gray with faint lines of light, looked dimmer now, fading. The twins were nestled against her chest, wrapped in a blanket of thermal mesh. They breathed in perfect unison, their skin pulsing faintly with every exhale, as if light itself lived beneath it. Kael didn't understand what they were, or what he was supposed to do, but he couldn't ignore the truth building in his chest. He had chosen this. He had defied his command, risked everything for a mother and her children. Now, the universe was responding. He activated his comms, switching to encrypted bandwidth. "This is Sergeant Kael Draven. Identification code." Before he could finish, the system cut him off. "Comm blocked. Priority override." Kael frowned. "Override? By who?" Then a calm synthetic voice filled the cockpit. "Unauthorized transmission detected. Command orders. Return to fleet immediately for debriefing." He swore softly. "Of course. They found me." He shut the comms and leaned back, eyes closing briefly. There was no going back. Not now. A faint sound broke the quiet, a weak, rasping breath. He turned sharply. Vera Lynn's eyes were open again, though half-lidded, unfocused. The faint glow within them flickered like dying embers. Her voice was barely a whisper, melodic and trembling. "You saved them." Kael moved closer. "Don't talk. You need to rest." Her hand reached out, catching his wrist with surprising strength. "Why did you help?" He hesitated, unsure how to answer. "Because you were dying. Because they were just children." Her lips curved slightly, though it wasn't quite a smile. No human would have stayed. Kael felt something twist in his chest. Then maybe they forgot what being human means. She stared at him for a long moment, as if trying to see past his words, past the armor. "My people once stood with yours. Long ago, before the silence." "What silence?" he asked. Her eyes fluttered shut again. "When humanity betrayed the alliance of Empiria." The name hit him like a memory from a dream, something mentioned only in restricted archives, the kind of history no one taught anymore. That alliance, wasn't it a myth? A rumor from the frontier wars? Her voice trembled. "Not a myth, a covenant. We shared knowledge, energy, life itself. But humans turned against us. The stars burned that day." Her strength failed, and she slumped back. Kael stood there, heart hammering. Betrayal. Shared energy. It didn't make sense. The war records said the Empyreans attacked first. But what if the records were lies? A sudden cry pierced the air, sharp, high-pitched. One of the twins stirred violently, eyes glowing bright blue. The other followed, their synchronized cries merging into a haunting sound that vibrated through the walls. Kael's HUD flickered. Then the ship lights dimmed, consoles flashing. Systems were shorting. What the hell? He rushed to the cockpit, tapping commands. "AI, stabilize power." "Power drain detected," the system replied. "Source, internal, biological." Kael's eyes widened. "What?" The ship shook slightly, a deep hum resonating through the deck. The baby's cries rose in pitch, harmonizing, almost like a signal. The lights around them pulsed in rhythm with their breathing. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. Vera Lynn stirred weakly, voice breaking. They are linked. Their song reaches the old network. The what? The bridge between minds. What humans destroyed. Kael knelt beside her. "You're saying they're communicating?" "With what?" Her eyes, dim but steady, met his. "With everything." The sound grew softer, fading into silence. Then, one of the infants reached out, grasping Kael's gloved finger. The blue glow under their skin dimmed, but didn't fade entirely. He felt something, a warmth that shouldn't have been possible through the suit. A heartbeat that wasn't his, pulsing faintly in sync. He swallowed hard, voice low. "They're part human, aren't they?" Vera Lynn didn't answer. She didn't need to. He could see it in the curve of their features, the faint traces of both species. Before he could ask more, a loud beep echoed from the console. Kael hurried to the pilot's chair. A holographic message flared across the display. "Intercept inbound." Human fleet locked on. His stomach turned. Command had caught up. "God damn it," he hissed. "How did they find me this fast?" Vera Lynn tried to sit up, but her strength was gone. "They will take the children. Study them. You must not let them." Kael gripped the controls. "If I run, they'll hunt me to the edge of the galaxy." She met his gaze, her voice soft but fierce. Then vanish. A voice crackled over external comms, a tone he recognized instantly. Admiral Renard, his old commanding officer. "Sergeant Draven, this is Fleet Command. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. You are harboring classified biological entities. Failure to comply will be treated as treason." Kael's hands clenched into fists. He'd trained under Renard, fought beside him through 3 campaigns. The man had saved his life once. But now he was the enemy. "Kael," the Admiral's voice softened slightly. "Don't do this. You're a good soldier, but you can't save them. They're not human." Kael stared at the console. His reflection looked back at him. Tired eyes, cracked armor, a face caught between duty and something deeper. He hit the comm switch. With respect, sir, maybe they're more human than we are. There was silence. Then, the fleet's targeting locks activated. Alarm screamed. Kael slammed his hand on the controls. The ship lurched, engines roaring to full. He twisted into a blind hyperspace jump, overriding the navigation protocols. The Admiral's voice cut through static. Draven, don't you? Then nothing. The ship stretched, warped, and vanished into a blur of light. Inside the med bay, the twins had stopped crying. The glow in their skin steadied, pulsing softly like two stars in sync. Kael stood over them, breath ragged, staring out into the void they'd just entered. Uncharted, unseen, beyond every map humanity had ever drawn. He whispered under his breath, voice trembling between awe and fear. All right, little ones, let's see where your song leads us. And somewhere, deep in the dark, something answered. The outpost floated in eternal silence, its orbit decaying around the dead star below. Kael Draven had turned the generators back on only enough to power life support and heat. The flicker of candles danced against the cold metal walls, illuminating streaks of frost that glistened like veins of ice. Every sound echoed, his breath, her whisper, the soft cooing of the twins wrapped in salvaged thermal blankets. It had been 3 days since they'd escaped Command's radar, or so Kael thought. Yet every quiet second carried a pulse of dread. Something out there was listening. Vera Lynn sat cross-legged on a bed of rags, her once silver eyes clouded by blindness, her hands tracing invisible lines across the metal floor. She was murmuring in her language, a melodic, whispering rhythm that Kael didn't understand but somehow felt. It stirred a faint ache in his chest, like a memory half remembered. He found himself staring at her, wondering how a dying alien mother could radiate such calm amid so much fear. "They'll come for us," he said quietly. "Command never lets go. Not when someone breaks protocol this badly." Vera turned her head toward his voice, her expression unreadable. "You think they hunt only you, Kael Draven?" Her tone was almost gentle, almost knowing. Kael frowned. "You think they want you too?" "I know they do," she whispered. "And not for what I've done, but for what you are." That made him pause. He was a soldier, nothing special, just another body in the long shadow of humanity's expansion wars. But something about the way she said it, that calm certainty, made his pulse quicken. "What are you talking about?" She smiled faintly, her pale skin reflecting the candlelight. "Long before you were born, your kind reached out to the stars, not with ships, but with minds. The first alliance between Empiria and Earth wasn't built with metal. It was built in the silence between thoughts." Kael shook his head, pacing slowly. "That's ancient myth. The neural accord was a failed experiment, telepathic warfare gone wrong." "No," she said, her voice suddenly trembling. "It was the beginning. My ancestors called it the unison. For a brief time, our species shared one consciousness. We saw through each other's eyes, felt each other's grief. It was beautiful until fear ended it." She lowered her head, and Kael felt the weight of her words press on him like gravity. "Your people severed the link. They called it unnatural, but in doing so, they shattered something cosmic and condemned both our kinds to solitude." The twins stirred in their sleep. A faint blue glow shimmered beneath their translucent skin, pulsing in rhythm. Kael's gaze locked on them, and Vera's lips parted. "They are not Empyrean, not human either. They're the bridge that was lost. And you, Kael Draven, are the reason they will survive." He stared at her, a mix of awe and dread crawling up his spine. "You talk like you knew me before we met." Her hand reached out, brushing the air between them until it found his wrist. Her grip was gentle, yet unyielding. "Because I did. In a unison, our souls touched once. Before the war, before betrayal. I remember your name whispered through the mind link of 1,000 voices. You were the one who refused to break the chain." The air seemed to hum around them. Kael pulled his arm back, shaken. "That's impossible." But as he said it, the lights in the outpost flickered. The comms console, long dead, sputtered to life for a brief moment. just enough for a distorted signal to break the silence. Static, then a faint, pulsing tone. 3 short bursts. Too long. Vera's head snapped toward the sound. "It's not random," she said. "That's a call sign. From Emperia." Kael's heart pounded. But Emperia's gone. Wiped out decades ago. Her expression hardened. "No. Hidden." He moved to the console, fingers racing across the controls. The signal repeated, stronger this time. "It's broadcasting from the outer rim. Coordinates past the dark fold." Her lips curved in something like hope. "The fold is where the accord was first made. If someone's calling from there." Kael finished her thought. "Then maybe Emperia still lives." Before either could say more, a piercing wail filled the room, the cry of one of the twins. But it wasn't just sound, it was resonance. Every metallic surface in the outpost began to vibrate, the candle flames bending outward. Kael covered his ears as static screamed through the comms array. Then the signal changed, no longer from Emperia, but from something much closer. A human military encryption. "Command." Kael swore under his breath, slamming a hand against the controls. "They found us." "How?" Vera demanded. He pointed to the twins, whose bodies still shimmered with faint energy. "They're emitting a signal, like a beacon." Vera's eyes widened. "No, not them. It's what's inside them. The unison is waking." Kael didn't wait. He grabbed his rifle, slung his pack over one shoulder, and moved to the airlock. "We have to move. Now." "Where?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the dark window beyond where the dead star hung like an open wound. "Toward the signal. If Emperia still exists, they'll know how to stop command." He lifted her gently, cradling one twin in his arm as she held the other. The hum of the unison pulsed stronger, vibrating through the deck, plating as if the ship itself could feel it. As they stepped into the airlock, Kael caught one last glimpse of the comms display. For a heartbeat, before the power died, the transmission decrypted itself into human language. Kael Draven. "Return the children. They belong to US. The screen went black. Vera's voice trembled. "They know their names." Kael's jaw clenched as he hit the thrusters. The ship tore free from the outpost, burning through the darkness toward the coordinates of the ancient signal. Stars streaked across the viewport, but in their glow, Kael swore he saw shapes, human and alien, intertwined like ghosts of memory reaching out from the void. Somewhere beyond the fold, something was waiting for them, something that remembered both species, something that had never truly died. And as the twins' faint glow filled the cockpit, Kael realized the truth Vera hadn't said aloud. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a return. The signal beneath the stars had awakened. The ship drifted through the silent expanse beyond the fold, its hull scarred and engines sputtering from overdrive burns. Inside, Kael Draven sat at the helm, one hand resting on the throttle, the other gripping his sidearm like a lifeline. The cockpit lights pulsed faintly red, bathing everything in an eerie glow. Vera Lynn slept in the co-pilot's seat, her breathing shallow but steady, her twins nestled close in makeshift cocoons of thermal cloth. Outside, the stars looked different here, colder, sharper, as though space itself was holding its breath. Kael's console blinked with intermittent readings from the bioscanner he'd salvaged from the outpost. The data made no sense. The twins' vitals shifted between human and Empyrean baselines every few seconds, like two overlapping realities refusing to settle. But what caught his eye was Vera's blood work. The molecular pattern wasn't just alien. It was coded, structured, intentional. He frowned, running the sample again. The scanner hummed, then displayed an impossible result. Genetic hybridization. Initiator sequence present. His throat went dry. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. Behind him, Vera stirred. "You shouldn't probe too deep, Kael Draven," she said softly. Her voice, though weak, carried that same haunting calm that always unnerved him. He turned. "Your blood, your DNA, it's not just hybrid. There's a signal in it, a pattern repeating at quantum frequency. Like it's waiting to be activated." Her expression turned solemn. "You were never supposed to see that." "Then you better start explaining," he said, rising. "Because if command catches us, I need to know what kind of weapon I'm protecting. Vera's blind eyes lifted toward the ceiling, as though she could see something far beyond the ship's hull. Not a weapon, she whispered. A key. Kael froze. A key to what? To the truth of what your people lost. She rose weakly, her movements graceful despite her frailty, and approached the viewport. The twins began to glow faintly again, as if reacting to her rising energy. When Empiria fell, humanity didn't just destroy our world. They destroyed themselves. The unison didn't die, Kael. It was buried, hidden inside your genome, locked by fear. Kael blinked, tried to process it. You're saying every human still carries a piece of the unison? Vera nodded, dormant, silent, waiting for a signal to awaken it. My blood, our children's blood, is that signal. Kael took a step back. If that's true, activating it could connect every human mind in the galaxy. Her voice trembled. Yes, every thought, every memory, every truth. You would all see each other again, without lies, without hate, without the veil of separation. He stared at her, horrified and fascinated all at once. You'd also erase individuality. No privacy, no control. You'd collapse entire civilizations overnight. Her lips quivered. You speak as a soldier of walls, Kael. You fear what you cannot contain. But connection is not death, it's rebirth. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. And what happens to you? To them. He nodded toward the twins. They're the bridge, she said simply. If the signal activates, the unison will rebuild itself. Humanity and Empiria will become one again. But if the signal is destroyed, her voice faltered. Kael finished the thought quietly. Then your children die. Silence settled like a weight between them. Only the hum of the failing engines filled the void. Suddenly, the ship's proximity alarm blared. Kael whipped around. On the scanner, a fleet signature blinked into existence. 3 vessels, approaching fast. Not command ships, but something stranger. Their energy signatures pulsed like living organisms. Vera's blind eyes widened. They're Empyrean survivors. Kael frowned. You said Empiria was gone. I said it fell. I never said it stopped breathing. She turned toward him, trembling. You must not let them scan the children. They'll know what they are. The ships hailed them, a flickering transmission breaking through static. The voice was melodic yet commanding. Unregistered vessel. Identify yourself. You carry stolen blood. Hand over the hybrid host, and your death will be painless. Kael cursed under his breath. So much for mercy. He throttled the ship, diving through the debris fields of the fold, maneuvering between frozen wreckage from ancient wars. The twins began to wail, their cries resonating with the ship's systems again. Panels flickered. Navigation failed. The ship started to drift. Kael, Vera cried out. You must let me access the signal. I can protect us. You said activating it could destroy barriers between minds and save your life. He looked at her, sweat glistening on her pale skin, eyes glowing faintly beneath the blindness, and something deep within him trembled. He'd disobeyed orders once to save her, but this could tear reality apart. The Empyrean ships drew closer, their weapons charged, crackling with plasma. Kael's hands hovered over the controls, torn between survival and sanity. Vera stepped forward, pressing her palm against the ship's interface. You trusted me once, Kael Draven. Trust me again. The cockpit lights exploded into blinding white. The twins' glow merged with hers, their small bodies floating slightly above their seats. A pulse erupted from her chest, a soundless shockwave rippling outward. Kael screamed as the world around him bent. His mind filled with voices, not alien, not human, but both. Memories that weren't his flashed before his eyes. Cities of light, Empyrean temples, the first meeting between species, the birth of the unison. He saw himself, another self, standing beside a woman who looked just like Vera thousands of years ago. Then silence. When Kael opened his eyes, they were no longer in space. The viewport showed a colossal structure, half machine, half living tissue, floating in a golden nebula. Vera collapsed, her energy spent. "You see it now," she whispered. "The nexus of the Accord. Where it all began." Kael's voice shook. "You just jumped us across half the galaxy." She smiled faintly. "No, we followed the blood." As the ship drifted closer to the glowing structure, Kael noticed something horrifying. The Empyrean fleet was still behind them, and now command ships were warping in from the opposite direction. Two enemies, one secret, and a signal in her blood that could change everything, or end it all. Vera's hand found his. "When they meet, Kael, the war will begin again. Unless we end it first." Kael looked at her, then at the twins, their eyes now glowing softly in unison. "What are you planning?" he asked. Her blind gaze met his. "To make them remember what they were before they became monsters." Outside, the stars began to dim as the fleets closed in. Somewhere deep inside the Nexus, the dormant signal began to hum. Ancient, unstoppable, and ready to awaken. The first explosion tore through the void like a scream from the stars. Kael Draven felt it before he saw it. An invisible punch that rattled his bones and sent alarms cascading across the cockpit. The human fleet had found them. Through the viewport, he saw the sky ignite with streaks of white fire, missiles cutting through the blackness, guided by vengeance. The nexus of the Accord hung behind them like a wounded god, golden veins pulsing faintly, its surface reflecting the chaos around it. "Multiple warheads incoming," Kael shouted, wrestling the ship's controls as plasma torpedoes streaked past. One clipped their rear stabilizer, sending them spinning. "They're not here to capture. They're here to wipe us out." Vera Lynn sat restrained in the medbay chair, her skin ghostly pale, her once glowing veins now dimming. The twins were crying softly, their bodies pulsing with light in strange, rhythmic waves. Each cry sent ripples through the ship's systems, momentary bursts of energy that flickered across Kael's dashboard. She lifted her head weakly. "Kael, the Nexus can still reach them, if we open the link." He glanced at her, sweat streaming down his temples. "You open that link, it'll burn you alive. I'm not losing you too." Her lips quivered into a faint smile. "You've already lost me when you chose mercy over orders. But you gained something greater." He clenched his jaw, pulling the ship into a hard dive. The fleet followed, hundreds of ships darkening the horizon, a web of destruction tightening around them. Kael could hear the encrypted transmissions echoing through the comms. "Target the anomaly. Terminate all life signatures aboard." "God damn it," he muttered. "They're calling us an anomaly now." Vera's voice softened. "You are. The last one." Kael turned sharply toward her. "The last what?" She looked at him with her sightless eyes, glowing faintly now. "The last human untouched by the Great Divide. You still carry the unbroken code. Pure empathy, pure will. That's why the signal bonded to you." Her words hit him harder than any explosion. "No, you said you were the signal." Her head tilted gently. "And now it must awaken in you." Before he could respond, the twins screamed. High, piercing, unnatural. Every console aboard the ship burst into static. The air shimmered with heat. Kael shielded his eyes as the twins levitated, their small hands reaching toward each other. Between them, energy formed, a spiraling sphere of white light that grew brighter with every pulse of their tiny hearts. Vera struggled to stand, her entire body trembling. "Kael, hold him steady." He rushed to her side. "Vera, your body can't take it." "Hold them," she cried, her voice no longer fragile but commanding, filled with something ancient and powerful. Kael's hands shook as he placed them beneath the twins, supporting their glowing forms. The air around him vibrated like a living thing. He could feel it, the pulse of humanity, the grief of centuries, the echoes of forgotten wars. Vera extended her hand toward the viewport. The energy from the twins surged into her, wrapping her in light. Her voice was barely a whisper now. "Kael, listen to the stars." He didn't understand until he heard it. Beneath the thunder of explosions, a faint harmony resonated through the void. Not from a ship, but from the human fleet itself. Every vessel, every soldier, every mind, it was as if they were hearing something too. The missiles stopped. The fleet held formation, frozen. What's happening? Kael gasped. Vera's glowing silhouette flickered, her form nearly transparent. They hear her song, the unison's call. The Nexus began to pulse with blinding radiance, answering the twins' cries. The golden light spread outward in rippling waves, washing across the entire battlefield. Every ship that touched the wave went dark, not destroyed but silenced. Engines stopped, weapons powered down, and then came the visions. Kael saw flashes through the viewport, human soldiers collapsing to their knees, their helmets clattering to the ground. Empyrean survivors, hidden across galaxies, lifting their faces to the light. Minds once divided, now touched for the first time in millennia. But inside the ship, the cost was unbearable. Vera fell to her knees, clutching her chest. Her skin fractured into lines of shimmering light. Kael dropped beside her. "No, stay with me, Vera." She smiled faintly, blood shimmering like liquid gold on her lips. "It's done. The link is complete." He grabbed her hand, his own heart racing in panic. "You said we'd finish this together." Her voice trembled. "We did, but one of us must remain to guide the awakening." He shook his head violently. "You're not dying for this. I'll find another way." Her fingers brushed his cheek, warm for a moment before fading. "You already have. You chose another way, the human way. You chose life." Then she whispered it, barely audible through the rising hum of the Nexus. "It must awaken in you." Her body dissolved into light, merging with the energy that surrounded them. The twins stopped crying, their glow dimming into peaceful stillness. Kael screamed her name, but she was gone, her essence expanding beyond matter, beyond sight. And then silence. Every ship in orbit floated powerless, bathed in soft gold light. Kael stood at the viewport, his reflection staring back at him. A soldier covered in ash and tears, but alive. Deep in his chest, something stirred, a warmth spreading through his veins, pulsing with faint luminescence. Her voice echoed softly in his mind. "You are the bridge now." Kael closed his eyes, feeling the hum of a million connected thoughts ripple through him. He could feel them, every human, every Empyrean, linked for the first time since the Great Divide. Outside, the stars flared in unison, streaks of light dancing across the black sky. Fire across the heavens. The war was over. The galaxy had changed forever. And Kael Draven, the man who defied orders for compassion, stood as proof that humanity's greatest power was not conquest, but connection. The silence after the storm was deafening. The wreckage of the human fleet drifted like frozen ghosts across the void, still bathed in the golden shimmer left behind by Vera's final act. Kael sat in the co-pilot's chair, his breath shallow, his hands trembling as the ship floated aimlessly among the stars. The hum of systems long dead now whispered faintly, powered by something that wasn't mechanical at all. It was alive. He turned toward the med bay, where the twins lay in quiet stillness, their tiny chests rising and falling in perfect rhythm. Their glow had dimmed to a faint pulse, like a heartbeat syncing with his own. And as Kael reached toward them, the faint whisper of Vera's voice brushed across his mind again. "It must awaken in you." At first, he thought it was grief playing tricks on him. But then, light flared beneath his skin. His veins ignited, lines of pale gold tracing up his arms like rivers of living fire. He gasped and stumbled back, clutching his chest as the energy seared through him. Not pain, not heat, but presence. It was as if something vast and ancient had awakened inside him. The twins stirred. Their eyes opened in unison, bright, colorless orbs that reflected the infinite void. Kael felt them inside his mind, not as voices but as echoes of thought. Images flashed behind his eyes. Vera's face smiling through tears, the ancient halls of Empirea, the first contact between human and alien hands millennia ago, the moment it all broke apart. And now, the moment it was healing. Kael fell to his knees, as his vision blurred. His mind flooded with sensations. Every cry for help, every act of mercy, every dying breath across the galaxy. He could feel them all. The connection Vera spoke of was real, and it was growing. Threads of light stretched across the stars, invisible to the naked eye, but bright in his mind. Every human heart that had ever known compassion began to resonate, humming in quiet unison. Then the comm screen flickered to life, an urgent red broadcast from command. The voice of Admiral Wren filled the ship, trembling with confusion and fear. "Attention all vessels. Repeat, all vessels, something is wrong. Human consciousness compromised. Reports of shared visions, emotional resonance across sectors. Medical corps in panic. Containment impossible." Kael lifted his head slowly, a faint smile touching his lips. "No," he whispered to himself, his voice hoarse. "It's not compromised, it's complete." He stood, his entire body glowing softly like a lantern in the dark. The twins watched him, silent and knowing, their tiny fingers reaching toward his light. When their skin touched his, a surge of warmth spread through him, a unity so profound it felt divine. He could feel the we in every heartbeat, the undeniable truth that humanity had forgotten. They were never meant to stand apart. Kael closed his eyes, and the world unfolded. He saw cities on distant colony worlds where people paused mid-sentence, tears streaming as they felt emotions not their own. Soldiers lowered their weapons, their minds flooded with the pain of those they were about to kill. Doctors suddenly understood the wordless terror of their patients. Children reached for the stars and whispered names they didn't know they remembered. Empyreans on shattered moons lifted their heads as the signal washed over them. The ancient code Vera had carried now sang through both species. One voice, one song. Across the galaxies, the divide between human and alien minds melted like frost under morning sun. Kael could feel the fear from command, their attempt to shut it down, to suppress the growing network of empathy spreading faster than any virus. But it was too late. The code wasn't just in the air, it was in them. In him. In every living being that could feel. His ship drifted toward the light of a nearby star, golden rays illuminating the bridge. Kael looked down at his hands, no longer scarred, no longer trembling. The glow within him pulsed gently now, stable, calm. He wasn't dying. He was becoming. Vera's voice came again, soft and distant, but filled with warmth. "You see now, Kael, humanity was never meant to conquer. They were meant to connect." He smiled faintly, tears glistening in the light. "You didn't die," he whispered. "You became the signal." Her laughter echoed faintly in his mind, like starlight turned into sound. "And so did you." He turned toward the viewport. In the far distance, the fleet, once ready to destroy him, now floated in perfect stillness. One by one, their beacons lit in unison, synchronized pulses of blue and gold. The twin lights spread outward in every direction, each ship unknowingly joining the chorus. Kael knew what it meant. The code was no longer contained to his blood. It had become part of the network of human thought. He whispered into the silence, the signal of unity. The twins reached for him again, their touch now cool and steady. Kael held them close as the ship glided forward, carried not by engines but by something unseen, something guiding. Through the viewport, he saw a rising glow across the horizon of the stars, a living web of light connecting world to world, heart to heart. And as he watched the first human fleet in history lower its weapons not out of defeat, but understanding, Kael realized Vera's sacrifice had not been death. It had been rebirth. Humanity, once fractured by pride and war, was whole again. The signal continued to spread, unstoppable, infinite, singing through time and space. And in the soft hum of the ship, Kael heard her voice one last time, gentle, eternal, filled with hope. Now they will remember who we really are. The fleets converged from every vector of the dark, human dreadnoughts, Empyrean cruisers, the scavenger factions of the outer rings, all drawn to one impossible point of light in the frozen silence of space. Kael's ship, once just a worn corvette of no consequence, now pulsed with an energy that rippled through the void like the heartbeat of something reborn. The twins slept in the cryo beds, their tiny chests rising and falling in unison, bathed in a faint blue glow that hummed against the hull plating. Vera was gone, or rather, she had become something more. Her voice no longer came from her lips, but from everywhere, echoing through every frequency, every thought Kael could still claim as his own. Outside, the stars shimmered unnaturally, bending and trembling, as if reacting to her presence. The once dark expanse of the void now carried faint golden ripples, like lights seen through deep water. Kael stood at the viewport, bruised, bleeding, and trembling, his armor cracked and burnt from battle, yet his eyes held something far greater than defiance. They held understanding. He whispered to himself, not knowing if he spoke aloud or through the bond now humming inside him. "Vera, what did you do?" Her voice answered in a whisper that felt like memory. "I gave them back what they lost." Across the communication grid, chaos reigned. Human captains shouted orders to fire, to contain the anomaly, to destroy the source before the contagion of empathy spread any further. Empyrean admirals, driven by old hatred, prepared their psionic weapons to burn the signal from existence. Yet, even as commands echoed through the networks, hesitation began to spread like cracks in glass. Officers faltered. Soldiers froze. The pulse emanating from Kael's ship resonated through every mind it touched, not as a sound, but as a feeling. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It was remembrance. Images flooded into every consciousness. The wars, the betrayals, the ancient alliance that had once united human and Empyrean under one consciousness. They saw the moment the split began. Fear born from the realization that unity made them vulnerable, that empathy was a weapon their enemies could exploit. So humanity severed the link, shattering what they had once been. And for eons since, both species had wandered the stars incomplete, each hating the reflection they saw in the other. Kael felt their memories as his own. He saw Vera's ancestors pleading for peace while his own forefathers turned away. He saw the betrayal, the fire, the final severing of the shared consciousness. But beneath it all, he felt something else: love. The quiet, desperate kind that transcended time and species. The kind that made him disobey every command to save her. His ship shuddered as missiles locked on from orbit. The human flagship Valiant Spear announced its final strike. "Subject Kael Draven, traitor to command. Your vessel will be neutralized. Prepare to be erased." Kael's eyes flickered toward the cryobeds. The twins stirred in their sleep, their glow intensifying, merging into one radiant light that illuminated the entire cabin. He reached for the controls, but the ship responded before he could act. The energy core pulsed in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat. The entire vessel became alive, every panel vibrating with the resonance of his pulse. Vera's voice came again, faint and distant yet infinite. "You were never meant to obey. You were meant to remember." Kael placed his hand on the console, and instantly the ship responded. A sphere of light expanded from the hull, rippling outward. The incoming missiles disintegrated before impact, not destroyed, but disarmed. Their circuits went silent, their warheads rendered inert. Across the human fleet, weapon systems powered down, one by one, as if the ships themselves had suddenly remembered what they were fighting for. The Empyrean fleet, sensing the same surge, hesitated. Their telepaths, once channels of destruction, now became conduits of memory. Across their minds, a single image appeared, a human hand reaching out to an Empyrean one, light merging between them. The vision brought tears to eyes that had forgotten how to cry. Kael collapsed to his knees, gasping. The light inside him burned hot, and yet it didn't consume, it changed. He could feel the consciousness expanding beyond his body, spreading through the neural fields of every ship within range. He could hear the thoughts of billions, some frightened, some enraged, most confused but all connected. The signal Vera left in her blood had become something unstoppable. And then, the final wave erupted. It began as a hum, a single, deep vibration that rolled across the cosmos. Stars flickered. Debris fields spun. Across entire sectors, comms went silent. Every sentient mind in range froze as the pulse of unity washed over them. For a fraction of a second, every human, every Empyrean, every hybrid, every broken consciousness shared the same moment of absolute understanding. They felt what it was to be whole. Then came the silence. Kael opened his eyes. Around him, the fleets drifted in formation, not as enemies, but as witnesses. No weapons fired. No engines roared. Every ship hung motionless under the fading golden glow. The air in his cabin shimmered softly, and from that light, a shape began to form. Vera, not flesh and bone, but light and memory, her form traced in the luminescent haze, her eyes serene and knowing. She smiled, not with sorrow, but with the quiet peace of one who has fulfilled her purpose. Kael tried to speak, but his voice broke. "You came back." She knelt before him, her spectral fingers brushing against his cheek. "I never left. I became what I was always meant to be." Her gaze drifted toward the cryobeds, where the twins now slept in calm silence. Through them, through you, they'll remember. And one day, they'll forgive. Kael's throat tightened. "What about you?" She smiled faintly. "I'm already everywhere. I am in their pulse, in your breath, in every heartbeat that remembers love over war." Her form began to dissolve, her light merging into the ambient glow of the ship until only her voice remained. She remembered for us all. Kael closed his eyes, letting the tears fall freely. The stars outside dimmed, as if bowing their ancient heads to witness the birth of something long forgotten. And then, in the deep silence of space, the humans and Empyreans began to speak, not through channels, but through thought. No translator, no command, no barriers. Just connection. The wars ended not with a treaty, but with remembrance. Kael, weary and broken, stood once more before the viewport. The twins, still sleeping, glowed faintly beside him. He placed his hand over the glass, watching the light of reborn unity stretch across the horizon of stars. The galaxy had been remade, not by power, not by domination, but by a single act of disobedience and love. He whispered softly, "Vera, we remember." The ship, still alive with her essence, responded with a soft hum that echoed through the stars. And somewhere far beyond the reach of any fleet or empire, the first dawn of a new age broke across the endless sky.